Hello, this is Ali with the Perception Trainers, author of The Perception Diet, and today I am going to be doing sort of a part 2 from last week's Real Talk for Lightworkers episode, where we talked about how you can get to your dream life and still feel like shit. So if you have not already done so, please go back and watch that one. And essentially all I talked about in that video was sort of my story of how I got to kind of what I believed to be my dream life, and then was still feeling some deep sadness and deep pain and deep struggle inside, and essentially that I realized that it was because my value system had not changed to match up with my new current reality, essentially. And today I want to talk a little bit deeper about that, to give you, again, sort of a deeper look into just what it was for me. And then next week, I'm going to talk to you guys about how to actually change your value system. Because I know in the last video, I just said, you just have to change your value system. And I'm sure some of you were like, what? How? What? I don't understand. How do you just change your value system? And that is something that I'm going to talk about next week. So this week, again, I just want to kind of talk about this other aspect of it, where we're essentially looking at how you can start to create a life for yourself where you're really getting what you want, and you're creating a life for yourself that feels really good for you and feels, again, like you're starting to get to what you wanted in your career. You're getting what you wanted in relationships. You're getting what you wanted in your body. Your life is changing in ways that you really wanted it to. And you're wondering why you actually feel worse in your new life that looks so much better on paper than you felt in your old life, or equally as bad, or the bad is just different now, okay? And essentially what I have learned through my own journey, all right, is that, again, I got to this place where things are very, very good. And sort of, you know, I don't talk too much about where I've come from and my kind of growing up journey. However, and not in a way to like hide it or anything. I'm not embarrassed about my past. It's never been incredibly relevant to talk about, I would say, my own history and my own personal, what I've been through. Whereas now I feel like in this video, there's definitely more relevance to my personal experience. And so I'm going to share a little bit more. So coming from where I came from, where I came from growing up, and sort of what was demonstrated to me as what life is, and just kind of the childhood that I had, I want to make it very clear that and this is too kind of answering a question that I get a lot. It's like, you know, Ali, like, how do you know what you know? What did you read? What did you study? How is it that you know this? And truly, I'm just going to say that so much of what I know is because of the experience that I've had. I've lived a life that in many ways was privileged. Yes, I got to go to school. I had food on the table. I had a roof over my head. I didn't have to worry about if I was going to have lunch tomorrow. I wasn't physically abused in any way. Right? I had what looked on the outside like a perfectly normal and healthy, awesome, amazing upbringing. And so this kind of, very much fed into why I felt so badly and guilty about what I created for myself later on in life. So there was that element, right? Everything looked good on the outside. Let's just be honest. That was how it was. However, internally, things were not so good. I was in constant turmoil. Like I say, I'm not sure if I've told the story, but I was essentially sent to the guidance counselor in school in grade 1, so 6 or 7 years old, because I was so stressed out. I was so stressed out, not just about myself, not just about my own grades or doing well in school or whatever, but because being around people was really hard because I could just feel how much pain everyone was in. And this is the other thing too, is, you know, part of my story is just that I have had a unique experience in that I didn't have boundaries, and I didn't know that I didn't have boundaries. I grew up my whole life being able to feel everything that everyone was feeling, being able to hear other people's thoughts, being able to just know how deeply people were suffering. And just a classic empathic person, nothing really that special there. A lot of people have this story of just, having no idea that you're picking up on what's going on with everybody around you and not being able to do anything about it. And then the second thing was being born and raised in a Christian household, in the Christian religion. I took on the story of Jesus and the story of the Savior in a way that I didn't understand, that I was interpreting it a way that most people didn't, and that I was having a completely different Christian experience than the average person, okay? So what I mean by that is I took the message of Jesus and his sacrifice on the cross for the people to save people from themselves as an instruction manual on how I was supposed to be, okay? Meaning, I thought that I was here to save the world. I genuinely believed that everybody's pain and suffering around me was either my fault directly and I needed to fix it for them, or it was not my fault, not directly my fault, I wasn't the cause of it, but it was still my job to fix it. It was still my job to make them feel better. It was still my job to do whatever I could do to get them out of their own suffering. And this was a core foundational belief that I carried around up until very, very, very recently, that I didn't even know that I was carrying around, okay? So part of what I mean by getting to my dream life and still feeling like shit and actually feeling worse, in my circumstance, I got to this place again where I'm literally doing for a career what I would do for free. Like full on what I used to do for free, which is work with people, talk to people, contemplate the universe, express what I'm contemplating. Well, when I was growing up in school, this is just what I would do all the time. This is what I would do in my spare time. Anyone I could get to listen to me about any of these things, I would have long conversations with people about this stuff. And part of growing up, my parents were not interested in this. And they found this very, very tedious and very, very boring. And it bothered them that I thought about this stuff so much, that I took everything so seriously, that I needed to know why people were suffering. I didn't know how to fix it. It bothered me so much that people weren't okay. They didn't know how to handle that. So there were a lot of conversations about me just not being right, that there was something wrong with me, that I felt so terrible all the time, that my depression and my anxiety about the state of the world. Because this is the thing too, it's that I didn't have classical depression in the sense that I felt bad for me. I wasn't, and not to say that I wasn't suffering and that I didn't, turn what I was picking up on in other people in on myself. I absolutely did. I went through my stint of anorexia, and I had a lot of self-hate. But again, so much of that self-hate was boiling down to the fact that I couldn't save people. I was just, by the time I got to grade 8, by the time I was 14, I was exhausted. My friends were all in pain. I had some traumatic experiences with one of my dearest friends getting cancer, and just watching her suffer and feeling like the doctors weren't taking care of her, and watching her almost die, and feeling like there was so much going on in her world and she was in so much pain and I couldn't take any of it away. And so, yeah, like I say, by the time I got to grade 8, I was just flat out exhausted. I just felt like a complete failure, like I was failing my job as a human, not being able to rescue people. And then it kind of went on from there, and I went all the rest of my way through high school feeling, like I say, I turned it more in on myself. I gave myself an out with the dieting and the anorexia and the self-focus. That was sort of my one way of feeling like I had some control over the pain that I was feeling, right? I felt like I couldn't do anything about other people, but at least I could create and then manage my own pain. And that made me feel powerful for a little while, but again, obviously didn't work. It wasn't serving me in the sense of moving me forward in any way. And so like I say, like I moved forward, graduated from high school, started to become an adult, still living in the world, feeling just absolutely horrible about everything and everyone, and seeing the pain and seeing the struggle and seeing the turmoil, and just wanting so badly to be able to do something about it. Like I just couldn't understand why I wasn't able to fix it and make the pain go away. So like I say, I wasn't classically depressed in the sense of my life is meaningless and my life is hopeless and I want to take myself out or anything like this. It was more just feeling this desperation of I just don't know what to do. Like I just want to fix it. I just want to make it better. It's so painful. So much of this pain isn't even mine, and there's nothing I can do about it. There's just nothing I can do about it. And so in a very innocent but misguided attempt to continue to try to fix the world, I set out. I became a nutritionist. And I think this is something that I want to share too, that like a big part of how I recovered from anorexia and how I recovered from much of the trauma of my childhood was telling myself over and over again that if I got through this and if I got better, I would be able to help other people, because I knew I wasn't the only one struggling. I knew I wasn't the only one suffering. And I really believed that if I got to somewhere on the other side where I was better and I had healed my anorexia, I had figured out how to like myself, how to love myself, I had become healthy in my body, I had become healthy in my mind, become successful, any of these things, I genuinely believed it was like it was gonna make a difference in the people around me. I was gonna take everyone with me. If I was gonna heal, everyone was gonna heal. And so moving forward and coming into this life where I did a lot of really good deep healing work, and I've faced a lot of my shadow and I've faced a lot of my traumas, and I've done everything that I tell you guys to do. Like I truly stand here being very aware of how easy it is to be a hypocrite on this path, and holding myself accountable and having other people hold me accountable, and making sure I'm never saying anything that I'm not living myself. And so, like I say, anytime I tell someone to sit with their negative emotion because it got information for you, I say that coming from having spent hundreds and hundreds of hours sitting with my negative emotions and figuring out what they were telling me, and then changing my life based on that. Like really leaving situations that were hard to leave, and exiting relationships that were hard to exit, standing up for myself in places I never thought I would, stopping behaviors that were hurting me, and I did know better at some points, and learning to be nice to myself and be gentle on myself. And like I say, just lots and lots of actual nose to the grindstone, physically changing my life and aligning myself with what I knew to be right and what I knew to be healthy. And so like I say, getting to this place where I have created a very beautiful, harmonious life for myself. And it's only getting better because I'm continuing to increase and expand my awareness. Like I've said many times, I'm not perfect. I'm not saying that I'm totally in this like blissed out state all the time. Of course not. I still have things that I'm working on and all this. But again, so I got to this place where life was as beautiful as I could have imagined that it would be. Like literally all through growing up, this is another thing why I wasn't classically depressed, because I had an eternal optimism. I didn't have an example for anybody living a life like the life that I've lived. I came from a small town in Alberta where everyone was a farmer or a hunter or a drug addict. Like, let's be honest here. Like they were in the Christian church and all just completely miserable, right? Like again, not understanding that I was perceiving Christianity in a very different way. Most people in my church, the adults in my church, were praying to God like, please daddy, give me money. Please, Daddy, rescue me from this shitty situation. Please, Daddy, deliver me from this so that I can have the things that I want. And my prayers were always, I want to understand this. I want to have the information. I feel like I should be able to know what's happening and create something good for myself. I didn't want to be rescued. I instinctively and intuitively understood that there was something that I was doing that was out of alignment, and that I needed to understand things better so that I could change. And I didn't realize that's not what everybody else was doing. So anyways, overtaking of responsibility, taking responsibility for myself, but then feeling like I needed to take the responsibility of everybody else. Fast forward, I create this beautiful life for myself, and I'm still completely miserable. And like I said in the last video, because I realized that I didn't fix it for everybody. That my coming into alignment, my new harmony, my new place, there are still people that I love dearly who didn't come with me, and who are still struggling and suffering in their lives greatly, and who are killing themselves essentially. And there are still, I mean, the world at large, right? It's not fixed, it's not better. And so this is where I came to, right? I came to a place where it actually felt worse for me to be living this beautiful life than it did for me to be struggling and striving and working so hard like I had been, right? So this was the other thing too, is to understand that all through growing up, I very much tried hard. I tried really hard. I worked really hard. I always had more than one job. I was always running around like a chicken with my head cut off, trying my best to fix everything and to be good and to be productive and to be a contributing member of society and to be working as hard as everybody else was working or harder, in the attempt again to make things easier for other people. I don't know how I figured that was going to be, but that's what I thought. And so now that I live this life where it is not hard, and I'm going to be very honest about that and very upfront about that, I have created, like I say, a life for myself where it isn't challenging. I get paid to do what I would do for free. This is absolutely fundamentally true. I have lovely relationships. I have health in my body in a way that I have never had before. I was born ill. Like, this is what I need everyone to understand. That, like, again, I don't talk about my childhood because I don't want to like complain or make a sob story, but like, I was sick. I was born sick. And I got sicker and sicker and sicker and sicker and sicker until I was 14, and I took it into my own hands. And like I say, even though I went through anorexia and all this, it kind of makes it cloudy, I was actually on a healing path. And it's because of everything that I went through and all the mistakes that I made that I am as healthy as I am today. Had I not done what I had done, had I not intervened in my own life, I would be dead. I know this for a fact. I have genetic reports to prove it. Like, I don't think I would have survived my childhood. I had really messed up relationships and was only shown what messed up relationships were like. Codependency, narcissism. I had no healthy example of what a real, truly not codependent and narcissistic relationship was gonna look like, and I have that now. And so all of these things, a dream career where I get to travel the world and just get to know people and talk about the universe and all of these things, this is beautiful and amazing. And I felt worse being in this life than I did back then, because at least back then I was living in alignment with the value system that I had, which is that if I just work hard enough and if I just try hard enough and if I just am suffering enough, my suffering is going to alleviate the suffering of somebody else. So getting to this place where I'm no longer suffering in my life actually made me suffer more, because I felt like I'm abandoning humanity. I'm abandoning my values and my morals. As a good person, you need to be suffering. As a good person, you need to be not in a good place. You have to be sacrificing yourself and sacrificing your pleasure and sacrificing your enjoyment and sacrificing your ease for the greater good. And I'm not doing that anymore. I have found that the universal law is absolutely true. When you align with what's right for you, it gets easy. This life is easy. I live a very easy life, and I didn't know how to handle that. And so when we get to a place where we're starting to manifest and create for ourselves what is actually feeling good and what we wanted, and it doesn't feel good, it's because you're not aligning with your value system anymore. You have shown yourself a view of reality that you didn't know was how reality worked, and you're still not caught up to it. So next week we're going to talk about this, okay? But I just really wanted to give more of a background on my own story, just because I know that you guys kind of like hearing from me about myself, and I want to be vulnerable and transparent. So this was my story. It really hurt. And so next week we'll talk more. This week, I hope it resonated.